Good evening, everybody. My name is Vince Warren. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Constitutional Rights, based in New York, New York. And you're going to hear a great panel after this from the Attorneys General. And I'm a lawyer. I'm definitely a lawyer. But you're going to hear something different from me than you might hear from them. More in line with what Justin Pearson was talking about than talking about boring Supreme Court precedent. So, the Center for Constitutional Rights, we are a legal and advocacy organization that's been around for 60 years. Our job in this moment is to put ourselves between the bad guys and the people that the bad things are happening to. So we represent people that have been abducted in immigration raids. We represent people who are being sent to Guantanamo for the purposes of being deported. We represent queer and trans people in jail whose medication has been taken away. We do all of this work, but it's not so much about the work that we're doing that's important. And I want to begin with something simple, but it's urgent, which is if you're feeling exhausted, if you're feeling disoriented, maybe even a little bit afraid, you're not alone. We are living through a time that feels surreal and yet all too real, a time when the very idea of truth is under siege, when justice is being rewritten line by line, law by law, to serve the powerful and to punish the rest. But I didn't come here to bathe in our despair. I came here to remind you who we are and why we fight. At the Center for Constitutional Rights, we have always understood that law is a tool, but like any tool, it can be used to build or it can be used to break, and we've seen both. We saw it in the Bush administration when they tried to convince us that torture was legal. Y'all remember that? We saw it in the Obama administration when they tried to tell us that drone killings were surgical. Remember that? We saw it in the Trump administration, the first time this man turned cruelty into public policy, targeting Muslims, immigrants, trans kids, and anyone who dared to dissent. And now in 2025, we are watching something even more dangerous unfold. We are seeing the legal scaffolding of authoritarianism being assembled right in front of our eyes. This is not about one man. This is about money, language, and institutions being shaped into weapons. It's about fear being deployed as strategy. It's about the law being twisted, not to deliver justice, but to enforce submission. So we gather because we know something that history has taught us time and again, is that when the law is used to repress, we must resist. When the government tries to erase people, we must make them visible. When they jail us, we get them out. When they marginalize our people, we center them. And when they say comply, we say no. At the Center for Constitutional Rights, we've been in the struggle against authoritarianism not just in the last year, the last decade, but for 60 years. From defending Fannie Lou Hamer in the 1960s, to representing the anti-war protesters in the 1970s, to suing the Klan in the 1980s, to suing the CIA for torture in the 2000s, to standing up for Black Lives Matter and Palestinian organizers, our mission has always been clear. Fight by partnering with those most under threat and whose lived experience best informs the changes that are needed. And let me tell you, 2025, this work has never been more urgent. This year alone, Trump has escalated its attacks on migrants, on Muslims, on queer folks, on Black educators, movement organizations. Entire swaths of the constitutional rights have been hollowed out. Nonprofit leaders are being criminalized and organizations are being investigated. People are being deported to torture, speech is surveilled, and condemning a genocide is now being labeled as anti-Semitic domestic terrorism. Now, we like to use the word unprecedented to describe this man and this work, but it's not unprecedented at all. And in fact, I am not going to stand here on Chata-Yakini and Chitimachi land, and I will not use that term because it does grave disservice to the people that have suffered, fought, died, and were displaced, deported, and caged here during the centuries of atrocities in this very place. In 1706, French colonialists raided the Chitimachi people, killed thousands of them, enslaved the rest, and took their land. Just 10 years later, the Spanish brought 2,000 Africans here as enslaved people. And that's how Louisiana got started. But you all are lucky to know this, as terrible as it is. Because last year, Governor Landry signed an executive order banning critical race theory in public schools. So this isn't actually being taught to our children. Here's another thing they're not teaching. Colette Pichon Battle, the wonderful leader who was giving a keynote earlier, took me to the Homelands a few years ago. After being forcibly relocated to the south, the Homa are now losing a football field's worth of land every 90 minutes due to the climate crisis. And still, this administration only wants to accelerate that crisis. But they are still resisting. In 1811, enslaved people in St. Charles and St. John's the Baptist parish mounted the largest slave rebellion in U.S. history, which was put down violently. Today, that parish, St. James, and other river parishes are called Cancer Alley because it has the highest rate of cancer anywhere in the country due to the proliferation of toxic industries. But the descendants of those enslaved people are resisting. And they've called for a moratorium on new plant builds in a lawsuit that we filed. This state couldn't be bothered to have unanimous juries to convict black people during criminal trials. But organizations such as Promise for Justice Initiative are resisting and have gotten people released from cages. We were happy to be part of those efforts. With just these three issues that I talked about, people in this state have been resisting for a total of 319 years, fighting with everything they have for their land, their health, their children, their dignity. They are not cooperating, and this is a lesson for all of us. So the thing about authoritarianism is that the success of the far right is necessarily dependent on the capitulation of the middle. It only works if people cooperate or pretend that it's not happening. And at CCR, we've chosen not to cooperate. Because as lawyers, you're either a part of the movement or you're part of the problem. So we are proud lawyers for the movement. The institutionalists always get it wrong. They say that if you fight for constitutional rights for everyone, it will be great for black, brown, and queer folks. But the problem is that the Constitution has never really worked right for those of us that are put on the margins, and then try to tell the truth about it. The Constitution didn't end slavery, didn't prevent the Japanese Americans from being put in concentration camps, didn't prevent the 4 episodes of mass deportations of Latinx people in the 20th and 21st century, and didn't prevent the illegal detentions in Guantanamo or the mass roundups of Muslims and Arabs after 9/11. So the next time you hear a lawyer say that they're defending the Constitution, know that that's only the bare minimum. And know that that's not the only thing that I'm doing, what CCR is doing. So if you're only lawyering to protect the institutions in this environment, you're not seeing the big picture. If you're lawyering to protect people, on the other hand, the people will win. Institutions and election cycles do not stop colonialism, torture, enslavement, and they certainly don't stop genocide, as we know. What they do is they tend to enable these things and punish the people who call for their abolishment. So what does stop each of these things in the face of government hell-bent on bombing, starving, deporting, killing, and caging folks? What stops that? People. Us. People who resist, people who refuse to comply. So we must declare loudly and clearly, we will not comply. We will not comply with unjust laws. We will not comply with fear. We will not comply with being criminalized. And we will refuse to distance ourselves from the people that the state does criminalize. We will not wait to see if the courts do our work for us, because they won't. Collectively, 90% of our cases win like hell in the lower and the appellate courts, but 70% lose in the Supreme Court. We will not be silent. We will not be contemplative or deliberative when, as now, action is needed. Some people regret speaking up too early. But everybody regrets speaking up too late. And it's 1:45 on the clock right now. So we need a commitment. All right, the problem is that we need a commitment during my talk, so y'all have 1 minute and 45 seconds to commit. For those of you on the fence, think about it. I really don't want to have to change the name of my organization to the Center for What's Left of Your Constitutional Rights, so I do need your commitment. Our resistance must be bold, it must be moral, it must be spiritual, it must be collective. We need lawyers who refuse to launder oppression in the language of the law. We need artists who create freedom where there is only fear. We need organizers who move at the speed of trust and the scale of urgency. We need communities that say, we protect us. We need electeds that have both eyes on the end of authoritarianism and not one eye on their upcoming election, y'all. So do not ask me for my vote if you're not willing to go to jail for resisting. Do not ask me for my vote if you are not willing to get me out of jail for resisting. Do not ask me for my vote if your decision point depends on you waiting to see what the Supreme Court will do, whether we are successful in getting the immigrant folks out of detention, or waiting to see how your constituents are reacting to the rising body count in Gaza. Do not ask me for your vote. Do not ask me for your vote unless you are ready to abandon the Democratic Party and join the opposition party. And now in 2025, when they came for Mahmoud Khalil, we got him out of jail. We got him out of the cage and sued the government for $20 million. Just today, we filed a lawsuit against the Department of Corrections in Georgia for their policy to refuse essential life-giving medication for trans people who were locked up. So let me be clear, this is not a moment for neutrality. If you are a lawyer, fight like your damn license is a tool of liberation and not just a trophy on your office wall. If you are a teacher, teach truth even when it's banned. If you are a nonprofit, put the doggone DEI statement back up on your website. Take a stand on Palestine and spend more time with the people that you serve than with your bosses. And if you are a normal, average person, understand that silence will not save you. It will not save us. The work of resistance must be joyful, it must be collective, and it must be unyielding. All right, so are y'all ready? People in this room, are we the people that say no? Will you comply? No. Will you concede? No. Will you capitulate? No. Are we the people that say yes? Will you fight like hell for the future? Yes. Will you fight for migrants and immigrants? Yes. Will you fight for our people? Yes. Would you fight for our movements and our lands? Yes. Will you fight for a free Palestine? Then let me leave you with these words from Ella Baker, one of the guiding stars at CCR. Strong people do not need strong leaders, and friends, you are those strong people. So let's go out from this place not exhausted, not daunted, not afraid, but fiercely determined and full of the radical belief that even in the face of this horrible repression, we can and must build something beautiful. Thank you.